and welcome to Random Fandom Chats. I'm Tandra.
I'm Dee Dee.
And this is Annabeth.
And here we talk about anything sci-fi, fantasy related, from books, movies, TV shows, comics, video games. And today we're talking about not the series Harry Potter, but the actual character of Harry Potter. And I actually really like doing episodes just based on one character, because I really like devoting time to appreciating how much time and effort writers put into these dynamic people and whatnot, and these characters who bring this series to life and whatnot. Now, what would you say is probably something you really like about the Harry Potter character?
Well, Harry Potter, we were talking about this one time a while back where you asked who my favorite characters in the Harry Potter series were, and my first one was Harry. He literally is, I think, my favorite character. He's a very good person. He overcomes all of these horrible, awful things growing up.
Things that have happened to him. And he's still a good person.
He's a very good person.
I admire anybody who can do that.
And everything and anything he does, you know, dealing with the Creevy brothers and trying not to hurt their feelings, even though he's like, oh my gosh, get away.
Like, oh, fanboys.
He doesn't let fame go to his head once he finds out how famous he is.
He actually kind of resents it.
Right. He's also a boy, you know, early on, of course, and even later, where, of course, he misses not having parents and, you know, being able to find out about them and all this stuff. And, of course, he turns into what I consider a really great wizard.
Yeah, and a very good man.
Yeah, and so I really like him, just his whole story arc development, everything about him.
Just in general, I like him.
Right, and he has flaws like everybody else.
Right. That is something that I think a lot of main characters especially have in a shortcoming, is that you don't really see a lot of their flaws. And Harry is a very flawed person. He's human, just like everybody else. He, you know, and of course in the fifth book, he gets a little bit more angsty and all this stuff really starts getting to him, and he starts kind of lashing out a little bit more. And even though we kind of don't like that, we're like, okay, Harry, chill down. That's a very human reaction. And I think a lot of times characters, especially main characters, don't have that a lot. A lot of times they are just kind of perfect in every way, even if it's kind of downplayed. But Harry has real human emotions, reactions to things. And I think that was a very, very well done on J.K. Rowling's part.
Right, well, and then even the fights he has with his best friends, Hermione and Ron, and some things, very human, very normal reactions, you know, and then, of course, as he grows up throughout the series, some of the choices he has to make, some of the things he has to do.
Some of the things he just goes through in general.
Right, it just shows his human side as well as his great side, because he does have both. And like you say, a lot of heroes don't have that. A lot of heroes are kind of 1-2-dimensional.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't have that kind of human depth to them, which I know that's very hard to do in a lot of ways. But I think that's one of the reasons why Harry sticks out as a great main character in my head. Now, one thing, I love characters who, even if they go through very horrible experiences or things in their lives, they're still good people, and they still overcome that, and they don't let that bitterness and those bad experiences shape them into a bad person themselves. They, you know, deal with it, and they are still true to that good nature inside of them. And that's something that I think Harry did great. I mean, look at him. He grew up in a very abusive environment.
Well, and he was a Horcrux. He had to literally fight that his whole life, you know, most of his life.
He had a piece of soul of the darkest wizard in history inside of him.
And he fought it the whole way. And living with those people like the Dursleys and dealing with Dudley and his group of friends, and being a nerd and, you know, a kid with tape on his glasses and everything else growing up. I think he's just a great symbol for everybody that
you can overcome things like that.
Right.
Now, one interesting fan theory that I have heard a lot is that a lot of people theorize that part of the reason, or most of the reason, that the Dursleys were so horrible is that it was because Harry was a Horcrux. We saw examples of how Horcruxes can negatively affect people's emotions and behaviors in the last book, with Ron being influenced by the Locket.
But it was only when he was literally touching the Horcrux and had it against his skin, or was wearing it around his neck, that happened.
Very true.
And the Dursleys were...
The Dursleys were pretty bad off just from the start.
And if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to make friends and people like Ron and Hermione.
Exactly.
And all that.
And, okay, maybe the Horcrux inside Harry just kind of brought out that side of them more...
intently?
More intense, and maybe, but I honestly don't like that excuse to kind of... negate what the Dursleys did to him. Because, I started rereading the first book recently, and the very first chapter just showcases that these are just really not good people.
Underneath the stairs. And he...
Well, not even just that. Like, before Harry even came to live with them as a baby, they were treating Dudley, like a little prince, as spoiled brat, kicking his mother and screaming for candy. And then, like, the instant Harry showed up on their doorstep, they were just like, oh my god, we have this slug, basically.
It was almost incredible that Dumbledore... Let's talk about somebody with faults. Dumbledore let this happen to Harry and kind of ignored it.
Yeah.
He was just like, well, they're going to take care of him until it's time for him to come to Hogwarts, and oh well.
Oh well.
And just
never mind that they're abusive and shove him under a staircase. And...
I mean, some of the things, not, celebrating his birthdays, not letting him go out with the family when they go out.
Literally acting like if they leave him alone in the house that he'll destroy everything.
Letting Aunt Marge talk to him the way she does, and and not just in the book where we actually saw her do it, but knowing that she'd done it in the past.
Because they mentioned her several times throughout the series.
Just incredible that they would treat somebody this way and just let it happen.
Especially somebody who was related to them.
And he was such a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that they would want to treat him that way is just horrible, but that happens in some families. And
they just have that nastiness inside of them, I guess.
Somebody to mistreat, and
for whatever reason. They hated magic and hated Lily and James, which
he represented all that to them.
And so they just automatically hated him. It's like, how can you hate a baby? It's like, how can you hate a literal infant? Just...
Some people.
Just some people.
So what's some of the other favorite things about Harry himself? Was there any particular scenes that you really liked that he, or things that he did, or things that you really hated?
Specific scenes, I probably couldn't really pinpoint for you necessarily, but another thing that I do really like about Harry, kind of harping back on the not so perfect main character thing, is that I really like how he does rely on his friends a lot throughout the series. He pretty heavily relies on Ron and Hermione and some other people to help him through all this and help him with these tasks. And I think that's kind of important that, it's not just the main character who's special. It's not just the main character who can just automatically do all these amazing, brilliant things. That, there are other factors involved and other people involved, and you have to rely on that. Some people, actually, that's one thing that they hate about Harry, is that he's apparently too dependent on his friends and whatnot, but I think that that's actually a very admirable quality, is that he can rely on his friends, and he doesn't feel like he just has to be, the big, rooster strutting around being perfect at everything and being amazing and doing all these things on his own. I think being able to rely on his friends and their talent, their respective talents and whatnot, I think that's actually pretty important. And I think it kind of speaks to his character that he would be willing to rely on his friends and find kinship with them enough to trust them with these tasks and this part of his life and these missions that he has to go through. But it actually makes sense for his character, I think, because, he lived pretty much an outcast in his own family. So when he does finally find friends and people who care about him, he would, want to rely on them and want them to be an intricate part in his life and his mission.
They're his new family, basically.
Right. So I actually think that that's a very good character quality. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I actually quite like that a lot.
One of the things I think Harry has as a flaw a lot of times is he'll jump to certain conclusions and not really go beyond that for a long time until he's proven different.
Has distinct evidence in front of him.
And he will jump to all kinds of conclusions and stick with it for a really long time. And
sometimes he's right, like thinking that Malfoy's a Death Eater.
well, we think he is anyway. We're pretty sure he probably is. It's never totally confirmed, but
true.
But we think he is.
Usually it's Hermione who's right about everything.
Yeah, she's definitely right about a lot of stuff. But it could be almost anything, and sometimes it's weird. He does rely on his friends, but then other times he won't tell them things.
Yeah.
Like when he was having, his hand cut into by Umbridge. He didn't want to tell his friends about it. And it's like, why not?
Very true.
Why would you not want them?
Well, but that was also the book where he was feeling a little bit more distant from his friends and feeling a little bit, like I say, more angsty.
A little bit.
The fifth book was definitely the angstiest book of all of them.
A lot of, yeah.
He was feeling very disconnected from his friends, and really, he was kind of pushing them away a little bit in the fifth book, I felt like. He started to kind of feel like an outcast to his friends.
Or you have things where he gets the Marauders map, and he, would go ahead and do stuff, but he didn't tell Lupin the whole story of what, how he got them. Or why,
well, he didn't want to get Fred and George in trouble.
Yeah, or he, I don't know, sometimes he just kind of keeps things to himself, or he'll start, one of the good things he does is, goes up against Snape all the time and speak up for people and jump into it and go, hey, that's not fair. But on the other hand, when it's him getting in trouble, a lot of times he won't go into the whole explanation. He just lets it go.
He's just kind of like, whatever. He's like,
yeah.
Well, honestly, I think that's probably a product of the way he was raised with the Dursleys. Because he, you get the idea that he might have resisted them treating him that badly at first, but it was futile, pretty much. So to have somebody else in this new environment treat him almost as horribly, it kind of just speaks to his personality that he's kind of just like, he's kind of just used to it, He
gets mad, but he deals with it. Well, the fact that didn't totally beat him down and make him a mousy person.
Very true.
Because he's very willing to jump in and stand up for what's right and for other people and everything else. He very much will go, hey, that's not fair. And he will do that.
Again, is pretty good for his character.
Right. So, I mean, he will jump in. He jumped in right away to defend Neville. He jumps in to defend other people. He jumps in to help Hagrid every chance he gets. Every time he gets an opportunity to do something for other people, he will risk life and limb for them if he can. And doesn't even usually give it a second thought, which is pretty cool.
Speaking of Hagrid, I actually kind of think that a lot of times Harry's relationship with Hagrid and the importance that Hagrid was in his life is kind of underplayed in a lot of ways. Because here you are, Harry is an 11-year-old boy who has pretty much been taught that he's worthless and won't amount to anything his entire life. And then here comes this almost impossible person, this person who just doesn't even look possible with his large size and whatnot. Comes into his life and tells him that he's special and there's this whole other world that's going to appreciate and accept him for who he is. And Hagrid ushers him into that life. And Hagrid is the first connection that he has to the wizarding world. And I think that's kind of apparent throughout all of the series, his willingness to remain Hagrid's friend, stick by him, do things like defend him and stick up for him.
It's almost like an older brother or uncle or something.
Yeah, like a favored uncle.
Yeah,
and,
really,
Sirius is really his main father figure, besides, of course, his actual father, who he can't remember. But a lot of times, I think Hagrid also kind of plays that, but kind of, like you said, a little bit more like a favorite
I don't
uncle.
see him as a father figure so much as somebody, very older brother or uncle or somebody... cousin, somebody who's in that, type of relationship with you that you're close to, and care about and, is older than you or whatever. those are things that definitely, shape him. That's the other thing, too. He ushers him into this world, and he has all of this money all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah. He's never had a quarter in his life, pretty much.
And the fact that he is able not to go around spending it.
He's very responsible.
He's a very responsible person.
I probably would not have had that much responsibility at 11 years old.
But he was, great at, okay, yeah, I've got all this, but I'm not going to go wild because I still need it. And
even when he was very tempted, like in the third book with the firebolt, he went to go see it every day, and he goes, oh, I could just drain all of my money and just go buy the firebolt, this amazing thing, but no, I have to be responsible and make this money stretch out.
So yeah, he just has some of the best qualities you could ever want in a person. And like I said, he's willing to give up life and limb for everybody.
For the people he cares about, people he doesn't know.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think that Harry Potter is probably one of the most epic main characters in any story. He would be up there with Luke Skywalker for sure.
Definitely.
I would say.
No doubt. And he's not as whiny.
Very true. Even when he is whiny, he's not as whiny as Luke Skywalker.
Okay, well, I think this has been pretty good. You want to see what we're going to do next time?
Alright, I think that's what we're going to do.
Alrighty. Annabeth, you want to pick something? Got some to choose from. That one? Okay. Yeah, you can open that one. Toss these back.
Alrighty. TV show. Buck Rogers, the TV show.
Going back into the 70s.
Yeah. See, I like how we keep going back and forth a little bit with our topics. Alrighty. So if you guys liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up or sharing it on various social medias. If you like what we do, subscribe, tell your friends, leave comments below, tell us what you like about Harry Potter, the character, what you don't like, if you agree with us, or just any other thoughts you might want to share. Alright, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.